In a far galaxy, there was a place no one spoke about out loud, the Academy of Death. Only the strongest, coldest alien fighters were allowed inside. It was not a school. It was a test of survival. No human had ever been invited. Until now, his name was Jackson Gray, just a human from Earth. Weak, slow, untrained, that's what they thought. But what they didn't know was this: Jackson wasn't sent by Earth. He was sent by something much older, something even the aliens had forgotten. They laughed when he walked in. They stopped laughing on the first day, because when the doors closed behind him, the Academy started to change, and soon, the aliens would ask the question no one expected. Why is the Academy listening to him? The Academy of Death was hidden on a cold planet, far from any sun. Only the most powerful alien warriors were allowed to train there. It was a place where students were tested in the hardest ways. No one entered without permission. No one survived without skill. For hundreds of years, no human had ever been invited. But one day, everything changed. A young man named Jackson Gray stood on his apartment balcony, looking up at Earth's moon. He was quiet, calm, and alone. Jackson had never done anything special. He worked at a small repair shop and lived a simple life. But deep inside, he always felt different, like something was waiting for him. That night, a strange light appeared in the sky. It wasn't a star. It was moving fast. It stopped above his building, and before Jackson could say a word, his phone lit up with a symbol he had never seen before. The screen read, "You have been chosen. Prepare for transfer." Before he could react, everything around him faded. The city, the sky, the air all vanished. In the next moment, Jackson opened his eyes and found himself inside a huge silver room. The walls hummed quietly. Blue lights floated above him. He was no longer on Earth. A tall alien with golden skin stood before him. Its eyes glowed softly. "You are the human called Jackson Gray?" the alien asked in a calm voice. Jackson nodded slowly. "Yes." "What is this place?" The alien gave a small nod. "This is the Academy of Death. You have been invited." Jackson's heart beat faster. He had heard stories of alien places, of secret missions. But this felt real. "I think you made a mistake," he said. "I'm not a soldier." The alien's eyes narrowed, but its voice remained calm. "The system chose you. We do not question the system." Before he could ask more, a door opened. Several other alien students walked past. They all looked at him with strange eyes. Some were tall and quiet. Others had strange markings on their skin. One of them laughed quietly and said, "A human. This will be easy." Jackson felt small, out of place, but he stood still, trying not to show fear. The alien guide led him down a long hallway. As they walked, Jackson saw rooms filled with strange training tools. Some rooms had spinning walls. Others had floating platforms. One room had no gravity at all. "The Academy tests your mind and body," the alien said. "Only the best survive. Most do not pass the first level." "Then why invite me?" Jackson asked. The alien paused. "That answer may come later, or not at all." They entered a chamber with a large round table. At the center was a glowing orb. Around it sat instructors from different alien species. One had four arms, another had no face, only light. The head instructor, a silver being with sharp eyes, looked at Jackson. "So, the human has arrived," he said slowly. "This is unusual." Jackson didn't know what to say, so he stayed quiet. The instructor stood. "You will begin training tomorrow. You will be tested. You will be watched." Another instructor spoke. "If he lasts one day, it will be a surprise." They all laughed quietly. Jackson felt heat rise in his chest. He didn't like being laughed at, but he said nothing. He only nodded. That night, Jackson was given a small room. It had no bed, only a mat. There were no windows, just a dim blue light. He sat down, thinking about Earth, about home. He thought about why he had been chosen. Was it random? Was someone playing a game? Then he remembered something strange. When he was a child, he once touched a broken machine and it started working. His mother had called it luck. But now, he wasn't so sure. As Jackson closed his eyes, he didn't feel scared. He felt curious. He wanted to know what the academy was hiding. And deep down, he felt a strange energy inside him, something waiting to wake up. In another room, far from Jackson, two instructors stood in front of a large screen. It showed Jackson's face, his Earth records, his DNA scans. One instructor whispered, "Why did the system choose him?" The other stared at the screen. "We don't know, but something about him feels familiar." The lights in the room flickered. For a second, a soft sound came from the wall. The Academy's core had registered a strange signal, one it hadn't seen in centuries. The system had chosen a human. And now, everything was about to change. Jackson woke up to a soft chime echoing through the room. The blue light in the ceiling slowly brightened. A gentle voice spoke through the walls. "Training begins now. Please report to Hall of Entry." He stood up, still feeling like it was all a dream. The silver walls around him shimmered faintly, and the door opened without a sound. As he stepped outside, the hallway stretched forward like a tunnel of light and glass. Alien students were already walking ahead, each wearing strange suits, some floating slightly above the floor, others completely silent as they moved. Jackson had no suit, no weapons, and no idea what he was supposed to do. But something inside told him to keep going. As he entered the Hall of Entry, a huge space opened in front of him. Hundreds of alien trainees stood in formation. Their faces showed focus. Some looked calm, others excited. Only a few looked at Jackson. When they did, it was with quiet disbelief. High above, a platform floated, holding 5 instructors in long robes that shimmered like liquid metal. One of them stepped forward. "Today, you face your first test," the instructor said. "You will enter the maze of silence." A quiet murmur passed through the crowd. Jackson heard a few whispers. "First test, the maze. He's going in there, alone." Jackson swallowed hard. A large door opened at the far end of the hall. The light inside was dim, and a cold wind seemed to drift from it. The instructor pointed. "Human, you go first." He didn't hesitate. He didn't want to give them another reason to doubt him. He stepped through the doorway. The moment he did, the door closed behind him. Silence wrapped around him like a blanket. He couldn't even hear his own breath. The space inside was strange. The walls moved slowly, shifting without warning. Light came from nowhere. He stepped forward and the floor tilted slightly. He took another step and suddenly floated upward for a moment, then came back down. Jackson realized quickly nothing here followed normal rules. Gravity changed. Walls disappeared and reappeared. Some parts of the floor were solid. Others were soft or sticky. He stayed calm and kept moving. But then, he saw something strange. A glowing line on the wall pulsed when he touched it. It made a soft hum, and for a second, he thought he saw a pattern in the light. Shapes, signals, almost like a message. Jackson placed both hands on the wall. The shapes changed again, this time forming a path. It looked like the maze was reacting to him. He followed the glowing path. Every time he reached a dead end, the wall beside him would glow again, showing him a new way. It was as if the maze was helping him. Outside the chamber, the instructors were watching. Screens showed Jackson's movements. The instructors leaned closer. "This has never happened before." One said, "The maze is adjusting to him." Another whispered, "No weapons, no tools, but he's still moving forward." A third added. One of them stared harder. "It's not just that he's moving. The maze is guiding him." Inside the maze, Jackson came to a room that was different from the others. A large round platform set in the center. He stepped onto it. The walls around him flickered with light, and then everything stopped moving. A soft tone echoed through the space. Then, a voice spoke, one that was not part of the academy system. It sounded old, but calm. "You are not the first, but you are the only one who remembers." Jackson froze. "Who are you?" The voice didn't answer the question. Instead, it said, "There's a reason you were brought here, but not for their reasons." The lights faded. The platform dropped gently, and Jackson found himself back at the entrance. The door opened again, and he stepped out into the Hall of Entry. The entire academy had gone silent. All eyes were on him. He hadn't run. He hadn't screamed. He had returned, quietly, calmly. The head instructor stood up slowly. "How did you get out?" Jackson looked at him and said, "I think the maze wanted me to." No one laughed now. From the edge of the crowd, Zika, a tall alien with sharp eyes, stepped forward. He was the Academy's strongest student. He stared at Jackson with a look of curiosity, not anger. "Who are you, human?" Jackson didn't answer, because, even he didn't know yet. The next day arrived with a strange stillness in the Academy. Whispers filled the air, but no one spoke when Jackson walked by. The alien students, who once looked at him with laughter, now watched in silence. Some were curious, some were unsure, a few looked concerned. Jackson felt it too. Something had changed, not just in the way others looked at him, but inside himself. Since leaving the maze of silence, he felt a quiet energy growing. He couldn't explain it, but it was there like a memory just out of reach. He entered the training chamber as the instructor called for a new test. "Today." The voice echoed through the high ceiling. "You face the mirror war." The room darkened. A soft blue light surrounded them. It was not a normal training room. There were no weapons, no armor, no targets. Just a wide, open space, and in the center, a circle of light. Zika stepped forward. Jackson remembered him from yesterday. He was tall, with smooth violet skin and piercing silver eyes. The top student of the Academy. He moved like someone who had trained his whole life. Calm, balanced, focused. Zika looked at Jackson with interest. "I requested this test," he said softly. "You surprised the maze. Now I want to see what else you can do." Jackson nodded. "I'll try not to disappoint." The instructor spoke again. "This test is not of strength or speed. It is of mind. Step into the circle. The mirror war begins when the light turns white." Both students stepped in. The light above flickered blue, green, then white. Instantly, the room vanished. Jackson was no longer standing in the circle. He was in a forest, but it wasn't real. He knew it somehow. The sky was too perfect. The trees didn't move with the wind. He touched a leaf, and it felt like memory, not matter. A voice spoke inside his mind. "This is the mirror. It shows your fear, your truth, your weakness." Jackson looked around. The forest changed. Now he was back on Earth. He saw his old home, his mother's face, a small boy sitting alone in a room. The voice returned. "You always felt different. You were right." He blinked, and the scene changed again. Now he was in a room filled with broken machines, but they turned on when he walked by. Lights flashed, screens lit up. It was a moment he remembered. But as he watched it, something became clear. It wasn't luck. It was him, somehow. The machines responded to him. Then he saw himself standing in front of something huge. A machine, shaped like a tower, glowing with ancient energy. But this memory didn't feel real. It felt future. He turned around and saw Zika. But Zika wasn't just watching his own memories. He was watching Jackson's too. "This is not how the mirror war works," Zika said. "I've never seen another student's vision before." Jackson looked at him. "Maybe it's not the mirror showing us. Maybe it's me, outside the test." The instructors were now watching more closely. One of the screens began to flicker. Symbols appeared on its old ones. Symbols from the original system code, long forgotten. One instructor whispered, "The mirror has accessed something buried. Something not even the Academy knew was still active, inside the test." The forest faded. The light shifted. The two students were back in the circle. But something was different. Zika stepped out slowly, his face calm but serious. "He's not like the others," he said to the instructors. "He sees beyond the test. I want to train with him." The instructors were silent. This had never happened before. Normally, the mirror war ended with confusion or fear. But this time, both students had come out stronger. Jackson looked at his hands. He didn't feel stronger in the usual way, but something inside him had changed again. The energy he felt yesterday was now clearer, warmer, like a puzzle piece had clicked into place. That evening, he sat in the Academy garden alone. The stars above were unfamiliar. The trees gave off a soft glow. Everything was quiet, but in his mind, questions were growing. Why could he see through the tests? Why did the machines react to him? Why did the voice in the maze say, "You remember"? He picked up a small stone beside him. It looked simple, plain, but as he touched it, the stone glowed faintly. Behind him, someone approached. It was the instructor from the first day, the one with golden skin and glowing eyes. "You felt it again, didn't you?" the instructor said quietly. Jackson didn't answer right away. Then he asked, "What is this place really?" The instructor looked up at the sky. "The Academy of Death is more than training. It was built long ago, before the Council, before the Great Wars. It was built using knowledge we no longer understand. Some say it has a heart of its own." Jackson looked at the glowing stone in his hand. "And somehow, that heart is listening to me." The instructor gave a small nod. "Yes, and now others are beginning to notice. Far away, deep under the Academy, a long-forgotten part of the system flickered to life. Old data began to move, and at the center of it was a single line of code. Human connection detected. Path unlocking. The Academy was remembering something, and Jackson was the key. The Academy was no longer just a place of training. Something unseen had awakened deep within its walls. Every hallway Jackson walked through felt slightly different now, like the walls were watching, listening. Some doors that had always stayed closed now opened as he passed. Lights flickered gently when he touched the walls. He didn't understand how or why, but it no longer surprised him. That morning, he was called to the top tower, a place where only instructors were allowed. It stood like a needle reaching into the sky, always glowing faintly at the peak. Most students had never even seen the inside. Two quiet guards escorted Jackson up the spiral lift. As he rose higher, he could see the entire academy below, the open training fields, the stone rings, the gravity wells, and beyond that, the endless cliffs and alien skies. It looked peaceful, but something hidden beneath that calm had started to move. The lift stopped with a soft tone. A wide room opened. In front of him, the walls were silver and smooth, but covered in strange carvings that looked more like memory than language. At the center stood the head instructor, the one with silver eyes and a voice like deep wind. "You are not a normal student, Jackson Gray," the instructor said without turning around. "I didn't ask to be here," Jackson replied. "And yet," the instructor said, turning slowly, "you are the first one the system has reacted to in centuries." Jackson stepped forward. "What is this place really?" The instructor walked to a round table in the center of the room. He placed his hand on its surface, and a projection rose into the air, a glowing shape, like a star map twisted into a spiral. At the very center was a symbol, Earth. "This academy was not created by the Council," the instructor said. "It is older, much older. The structure was discovered on a ruined world. When the first explorers entered, the system inside awoke. It offered training, tests, knowledge, but only for those it accepted." Jackson listened carefully. At first, the instructor continued, "It rejected all who entered, until one species was accepted, humans." Jackson's eyes widened. "But humans were not yet part of the Galactic Society," the instructor added. "So the Council locked away that part of the system. It became a myth, a forgotten truth. Until now." Jackson stepped closer to the table. The map shifted. Lights began to blink. One of the old systems had started again. "The system chose you," the instructor said. "Not us, we only followed the signal." Jackson felt a deep stillness in his chest. So he wasn't chosen by chance. Something, maybe the academy itself, had called him. "Why me?" he asked quietly. The instructor looked at him closely. "Your DNA contains patterns not found in other humans. Traces of something older, something once connected to this place. We don't know what it is, but the system seems to know you." Suddenly, a soft hum filled the room. The table glowed brighter. A symbol appeared in the air, an ancient mark from the academy's core. The instructor's face changed. This was not expected. "It's opening a path," he said. "One that's been sealed since before the academy became what it is now." The doors behind Jackson opened again. Another instructor rushed in. "We've never seen this before," she said, pointing to the map. "The path leads to the deep archives." The instructor turned to Jackson. "That part of the academy has been closed for thousands of cycles. No student has ever been allowed inside." Jackson looked at the glowing mark. but it's calling me." The instructor nodded. "Then you must go." Later that day, Jackson walked alone through the lower halls. A door that had always remained sealed now opened as he approached. Inside was a narrow tunnel. The air was cool and smelled of metal and stone. He followed the path down into the heart of the academy. Lights lit one by one as he passed, revealing carvings of human figures, not in chains, not defeated, but standing beside alien beings as equals. He stopped in front of a wall that showed something different, a human hand touching a sphere, just like the one in the maze. The wall glowed faintly. Jackson reached out and touched the same spot. The wall shifted. A new room opened, a chamber filled with quiet humming. In the center, a large sphere floated, pulsing gently with light. Jackson stepped closer. As his hand neared the surface, the sphere began to respond. Lines of light crawling across it like threads coming back to life suddenly. He saw flashes in his mind, not memories, but something deeper. Visions of a time long ago, where humans were part of something much bigger. They didn't fight the galaxy, they helped build it. And then, something went wrong. A silence, a shutdown, a forgotten code. The vision faded. Jackson opened his eyes. He now understood. The academy was not just a school. It was a vault, a keeper of secrets. And the human connection wasn't lost, it had only been sleeping. Back in the main tower, the instructors watched the readings with disbelief. He accessed the deep archives. One whispered, "The system has accepted him." Another said that the head instructor looked out the window toward the tower. "The academy remembers," he said, "and now, so will we." Jackson returned to his room late that night, quiet but focused. The stone on his table glowed again as he passed it. The voice from the maze echoed faintly in his mind. "You are not here to survive. You are here to remember." And now, he finally had asterisk. The next morning, the sky above the academy had changed. Strange clouds circled above the towers, moving in perfect shapes. Soft energy waves passed through the air, invisible to most, but Jackson could feel them. They didn't hurt. They hummed gently in his chest, as if the academy was breathing through him now. Jackson woke early, long before the message bell rang. He sat quietly on the floor of his room, eyes closed. He didn't know why, but his body felt connected to something larger. His breath matched the silent rhythm in the walls. When he opened his eyes, the small stone beside his bed glowed on its own. He picked it up and held it in his palm. Lines of soft blue light appeared on the surface, showing the same old symbol from the deep archives. The stone was a guide, he was sure now, a key that had been waiting for him. Suddenly, a small light blinked on the wall. A voice came through. "You are requested in the central core room now." Jackson stood up without hesitation. The core room was located in the very center of the academy, far below even the lowest chambers. Few even knew how to reach it. But this time, the lifts moved on their own. No one guided him. The path simply opened as he walked. As the doors closed behind him, he found himself in a round, silent room filled with floating rings of light. In the center, there was a tall column covered in ancient writing. Round it stood the 5 highest instructors. Their faces were calm, but their eyes followed Jackson closely. "You are now connected to the core," one of them said. "We have never seen this before." Jackson looked at the glowing rings. "Why is this happening now?" An instructor stepped forward. "Because you awakened it. The system has recognized you not as a student, but as part of itself." The air shifted. One of the rings floated toward Jackson. It hovered in front of him. Without thinking, he reached out. As his fingers touched it, a bright symbol appeared in the air. A map, not of the academy but of its foundation, hidden deep beneath everything. "The system is showing you its origin," another instructor said. The projection grew larger. It revealed something shocking. Long ago, before the academy was ever known, it was not a place of training. It was a seed machine left behind by ancient humans. It was sent across space during a great unknown event. Its purpose was to wait, to sleep, until one of their kind returned. "You weren't just invited, Jackson," the instructor continued. "You were expected." Jackson felt his heart beating faster. "So this academy was never really yours?" No, the instructor said quietly. We only discovered it. We thought we controlled it. But we were only visitors. Suddenly, the lights in the room pulsed. The rings stopped moving. The central column began to shift from within it. A soft voice spoke, not a person, but the system itself. Human presence confirmed. Final phase unlocked. Memory chamber available. The instructors looked at one. Another. This has never happened before. The floor opened gently, revealing a spiral path leading downward. Jackson walked toward it, and the others did not stop him. As he stepped deeper into the passage, the air grew still. Soft lights guided him forward. He entered a round chamber unlike anything else in the academy. The walls shimmered like water. At the center floated a single object, a chair made of light. He sat down. The room responded. A vision appeared all around him, not like a screen, but like reality. He saw Earth long ago, before cities, before borders, a time when human knowledge was far more advanced than anyone had known. They had created machines not to destroy, but to remember. Machines that could hold entire worlds of data, built to hide in stars, moons, and underground. The academy was one of them. But then came silence. Something happened, something terrible. Earth lost that age. The machines fell silent, and one by one, the memories were lost, until now. Jackson was not just a student. He was a carrier of a forgotten link, a part of the ancient human code. The academy had found him, and now it was preparing to wake fully. When he stood again, the lights around him pulsed brighter. The room spoke softly once more. Full access granted. Systems aligning. Human leadership recognized. Back on the surface, the academy shifted. Doors that had been locked for thousands of years opened. Old rooms, once hidden, were revealed. Students and instructors looked around in confusion and awe. Machines started running again. Symbols began appearing on every wall. And at the heart of it all, Jackson returned, quiet, calm, but changed. Zika met him at the entry gate. His expression held no challenge now, only respect. What did you see? He asked. Jackson looked up at the towers glowing above them. I didn't just see the past, he said. I saw the reason I'm here. The academy had remembered. Now, the galaxy would have to remember too. Asterisk, a quiet light fell over the academy as the final sunrise of the training cycle began. Everything looked the same, but nothing truly was. Ever since Jackson had unlocked the hidden chamber beneath the academy, a strange calm had settled over the entire place. The instructors no longer walked with pride in their steps. Instead, they watched the human boy closely, whispering behind closed doors. Some believed he was chosen. Others feared he was changing things too fast. Jackson didn't seek attention. He spent most of his time in the newly revealed chambers, learning quietly from the system's voice. It spoke in soft tones, teaching him about the forgotten past of humanity, not just history, but dreams, designs, and languages that had once built worlds. He absorbed everything like he was remembering it, not learning it. Zika walked beside him more often now. His questions had changed. They were no longer about competition or status. What do you think it wants from you? Zika asked one day, as they crossed the light bridge that hovered above the deep vaults. I don't think it wants anything, Jackson replied. I think it's just waiting for me to decide. Decide what? Jackson paused. Whether I lead or leave. The words stayed with Zika long after. One evening, a soft tone echoed through every hall in the academy. It had never sounded before. Even the elders looked up in surprise. The council calls for assembly, the system said. Every student and instructor gathered in the grand chamber, a wide space beneath the academy's oldest tower. The air buzzed with quiet confusion. Floating above them was a map of the galaxy, but not the current one. It was a version from thousands of years ago. Lines of travel, human-made beacons, ancient paths between stars. A voice came from the center. The academy has been holding this knowledge, the system said. But now it is time to open it again. The galaxy has forgotten Earth's purpose, but one among you has reconnected. The path. The crowd turned to look at Jackson. He stepped forward, slowly, not out of pride, but because he knew he had to. The map zoomed in, showing a far-off planet. A planet the Academy had never spoken of before. Its name glowed in golden letters, Solare. This world once held a signal station built by early humans. The voice continued. It is still active, but weak. It calls out, hoping someone will remember. The instructors stood silent. Jackson turned to them. I want to go there. One instructor stepped forward. You are not ready. The Academy has always decided when the journey begins. Jackson looked at the glowing walls. That was before. The Academy doesn't decide anymore. It remembers. Silence filled the room. Then, slowly, the floor beneath them began to rise, lifting Jackson into the center of the map. The system's voice returned. Transport will be arranged. Guardians may join. But the leadership now falls to the human who reconnected the core. Zika stepped out of the crowd. Then I go too. Others followed. A team began to form not by command, but by choice, not to fight, but to explore. That night, Jackson stood at the edge of the tower. Stars shimmered above him. Zika joined him again. You think they'll listen out there? Zika asked. Jackson smiled softly. They don't need to listen. They just need to remember who we are. The transport ship arrived 3 days later. It was small, quiet, and shaped like a starseed, a forgotten design from Earth's golden age. As they stepped inside, the system gave one final message. You carry more than memories. You carry a beginning. The ship lifted into the air, silent and smooth, and disappeared into the stars. Back in the Academy, the instructors stood together, watching the sky. He wasn't what we expected. One of them said. No, another replied. He was what we needed. Far in space, Jackson sat beside Zika, looking at the starlines stretching ahead. The Academy had been the first key, but now the real path was opening. And at the end of that path, something waited, something even older than the Academy, still pulsing with human light.